Alright, this is a video of to simplify reading the debuffs for Apocalypse because everyone gets debuffs and it seems really confusing because you always have, not always, you usually have 1 to 2 people flexing back and forth and you have like 0 time to figure it out. And you also have to be watching for the Apocalypse at the same time. But it's actually really easy. So you really only ever have to look at your side. We're split into roles, so DPS only need to look at DPS. Support only need to look at support. Use red. So the flexing priority in 1 and 2 are 1, R2. So basically, healer 2 and range 2 are just never going to flex. I will assign some random debuffs. Actually, before I do that, this is how you set up for it. You can make sure that you're in those boxes because it's important, because when you go to flex, you don't need to pay attention to the other rules. You just need to run across and fill in the empty spot in the box, because immediately after the first hit, you have to spread, and those little green spots are where you'll spread to, like that. Okay, let's do, I don't want to write the whole number, so we're just going to go 1, 2, 3. No debuff is going to be next. So I will say 1, 1, 2, 3. They don't have debuff. 1, 2, 3. They don't have debuff. Okay, so this would be super simple because nobody has to flex DPS. We don't have to look at them. We have a 1, we have a 2, we have a 3, we have a no debuff, so nobody has a duplicate. We can move on. I will say there's a 1 and a 2. No debuff. No debuff. 3, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so again, if we're a DPS, all we have to look is at those 4 debuffs. I'm 1. Nobody else has a 1. Great. Range 2 has a 2. Nobody else has a 2. Great. M1 and M2, both of them don't have debuffs. So we're going to think of the lack of a debuff as a debuff in itself. So I'd consider that a duplicate. So melee 1 has priority. They would swap over to the side with the supports. Meanwhile, the supports are doing the same thing. The tanks have been like, oh, we have matching debuffs. So main tank would be running up here. So if the melee 1 and tank 1 both leave their part in the box, they just go fill in each other's spots. You don't have to know who left. You just fill in where they're not there. Okay. And then you might get a situation like 2, 2, 3, 3, and then I think 1, 1, no debuff, no debuff. Okay, so let's only pay attention to our side. On the ranged, I see that I have a duplicate, but I see that it's melee 2, so I do nothing. Melee 2 knows to flex. Melee 1 sees that they have a duplicate. Melee 1's first priority, they're automatically gonna flex. Like I said before, range 2 is never gonna flex, so it doesn't even matter. And then down here, the tanks know one of them have to flex, so tank 1 will run over this side, and then healer 1, healer 2. Healer 1's priority, healer 1 would go over there, because they both have no debuffs. So you'll have 2 people running from one side, 2 people running from the other side. Just fill in the spots in the box, and it will all work out. Alright, last example. 3, 1. No debuff. 2, 2, 1, no debuff. So if we're a DPS, looking at the DPS, I'm ranged 1 and I see that I have duplicate. The other person is range 2, so I need to go down there. If I were range 2 and I see that I have a duplicate, I don't care because I don't flex. And down here, healer 1 and healer 2, see that they have duplicates. So healer 1 goes up there. Again, healer 2 doesn't even care because they don't flex. So you'll have ranged 1 and healer 1 swapping. And we'll be leaving our spots at the same time. I get over here and I'm like, oh, there's an empty spot there, so go stand in it. Okay. Alright, so this is how we're gonna set it up at the beginning. Make a box. I cannot stress this enough. Stand in a square. So that is ranged 1 and ranged 2, M1 and M2, main tank, off tank, healer 1, healer 2. Ew. First, when she goes to cast the spell in waiting, which is going to be your debuffs that show up, there's also going to be all of these annoying orange arrows everywhere, and they are obstruct your view of everything, super annoying, very distracting when you have the attention span that I have, but it's fine. Just, they're going to go away, ignore them. Just know that when they show up, she's about to give you your debuffs. So, how your debuffs show up, glance over at the party list, see if you need to flex. If you have a duplicate and you are the flexer, we'll say it's M1 and tank 2 that are flexing. M1 is going to run over here, and at the exact same time, tank 2 is going to run over here, and then they're going to be like, wow, there's an empty spot, I'm going to stand there. Same over here. So as this little swap is going on, she's going to start casting Apocalypse, and someone is going to get the little square timer. It'll start counting down. And at the end of that is when the stack happens. You need to be in your little stack spot, but you also need to be prepared to immediately spread, because as soon as that stack hits, you gotta be like, vroom, vroom, zoo, zoo. Okay, so you're out in these spots, because as that's counting down, she's also casting Spirit Taker. At the end of Spirit Taker, she targets a random player, and if you are like anywhere near them, you're gonna get knocked back into a wall. And nobody wants that. But when that timer's counting down, right when that stack hits, she's also sending out the first Apoc. A little light's gonna come out. It's gonna hit there. It's gonna move in a direction. It can be going counterclockwise or clockwise, but this little stack kind of makes a big circle, and so it can be a little hard to spot if you don't know what you're looking for exactly. But it's easier to see if it comes out at one of those, but sometimes the first one comes out here, and then you have no idea what's going on. But it's fine because you'll be able to see the next one is going to, the little light's going to move, it's going to light up again. Meanwhile, y'all are out here. So, your safe square, or your safe pizza slice, whatever, is always going to be, let's say, the first Apoc comes out, and it's going that way. These are going to be your safe spots. And right after that spread, that's when you spread out to your little safe spots. And then as soon as those go off, everyone is running in, ranged. Make sure you are going down that line because you don't want to get hit by these things going off. And then you'll stand on those for the stack. And that little circle on the edges. And then the second water stacks go off. If you had to swap groups, you're going to swap back for the stacks. And so yeah, that's the first half. So I'll stop there.